Good morning and happy Wednesday. Welcome to another episode of Light Coffee Talk. If you are new to me, I'm Michelle Quay and I am a visibility coach, storyteller. I always have to pause and think about like all these titles that I have. Which one do I start first? So if you stumble upon my profile and this is your first time watching, I need you to do me a favor and just keep watching and click on that subscribe button or click on that follow button so that you will not miss my amazing and beautiful smile every Wednesday at 11 o'clock Pacific time. So if you are jumping in here live, I would love to hear where you're coming from. Just drop it into the comment. Let me know where you're watching this from, and I would love to give you a shout out on this show if you simply give StreamYard the authority to show your name. So welcome to Live Coffee Talk, and this is a show where I bring amazing guests to come and share their life experiences, their business experience, so that you can keep climbing that mountaintop. And one of my things is that I believe that every life journey leads us to somewhere. And that somewhere is going to open up the door to new possibility, new experience, new opportunity, so that you can live your life in dreams, or outside of dreams, whichever one I say that. Today, I'm super excited because this is one of the struggle that I had as an early entrepreneur. I had to try and figure out like how exactly do I put all the legal stuff that's on piece of paper and send it to my client. And I didn't want to just send something that's, I don't know if I'm going to sue for this or not. So I rather have an expert to show me and tell me exactly how I do things. And today I'm thrilled to bring and invite Angie Hooper. She helps legal professionals save their career from stress and burnout, and something that you want to hear about. So make sure we had a conversation earlier. We started from sharing that experience is coming from the place of burnout. And from over 22 years of experience as an attorney for international energy and manufacturing company, she shows lawyers how to build the internal resources to live the life they want, they want, so that they can decide, you decide to go to law school for a reason. And I'm sure you don't want to experience that burnout and stress, and which is very common. I can tell you that from a personal observation. Angie also helps entrepreneurs to become savvy customers and legal services so that they can build their business the way that they want, with the foundation based on their life and dream. And so she is the expert of, like, if you're going to ask anything about contract, she would be the person that you want to connect to. And so stay till the end, because she has a lot of freebies and goodies for everybody. So make sure you stay on the show till the end. And without further ado, I don't know why people keep saying that, and I know keep saying that. Without further ado, please join me with a warm welcome, Angie Hooper.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you for that lovely, lovely introduction. You are so sweet. Thank you.
You have an amazing, beautiful resume. I think you and I connected through the iPad coaching community,
Yep.
and you were just showing up, being you, answering the comment, and I secretly, I'm the secret stalker and admirer. I reached out. I'm like, Angie, I have this group of women
Yes.
coaches, and they really need your help. They need to hear from you. Would you be willing to come to my show and share your expertise? And she was like, yeah, no problem, I'll be there.
Yeah, I love it because, one of the things that I noticed when I was practicing law full time was that lawyers are so scary for people, right? So one of my ambitions and one of the purposes that I have for my business is to help people demystify what it means to engage with a legal professional and get access to those services. Because here's a thing that is true about contracts, right? If you have a good contract in place, not only does it protect your business, it helps have a better relationship with your clients, right? It can actually be relationship building with your clients and not a scary thing. So when I see people in a coach's group post something like, "Hey, does anybody have a contract?" I want to smack my forehead and think, "Oh, no, don't do that." There are other options to protect yourself, and having a relationship with a lawyer is great if you have the means and you're at the stage of your business to do that.
So I will correct that, because not relationship with every lawyer. If you have a relationship with Angie, that would be completely different. Okay, so let me just put it out there, right? If you're in a relationship with Angie, and she could be your legal advisor, right? That would be completely different.
That's really sweet. I was once introduced to a big conference room full of, we were doing a kickoff for a big project with a major IT company. And my internal client introduced me to the room, and oh, Angie, she's from legal. And everybody on the other side of the table like froze up. And she said, no, she's not like the other lawyers. She's here to help us. And they all relaxed. And so I always think about that story as really symbolic of how I want to be there for my clients. Is I'm a person who helps them navigate things that can be kind of confusing and tricky. So now, because I'm licensed in a couple of states to practice law, Texas and Oklahoma, I have to do the little disclaimer. I have to do the lawyer disclaimer that says that what we're doing today is for education. So there's no legal advice here today. We're not creating any type of attorney-client relationship. So I have to make sure people understand that. But yeah,
Yeah.
let's get to some good stuff.
And I'm really curious too, because now you're a coach. You're a
Mhm.
certified ICF certified coach.
Yeah.
And so what was that journey like, going from a lawyer to a coach?
Yeah, one of the things that, happened was in 2001, I was working for a big giant energy company, and I don't know if people remember the big Enron energy financial scandal, right? So I started, it was my very first like in-house job. I'd been a lawyer for a couple of years, but I get my dream job summer of 2001. And within 90 days, we had the attacks on the World Trade Center. Enron filed for bankruptcy and created a financial crisis for our company. And then we had another business that went into bankruptcy as part of the telecom bubble. So when people in 2020 were like, oh my gosh, the world's falling apart around us, I was like, oh, I remember this. This is 2001 all over again, except it's happening for everybody. And so one of the things I learned during those series of crises in 2001 is that it's not always about the technical skill, right? It's not always about the business plan or the talent or the whatever. Sometimes it's about what you bring to the table in terms of your mindset. And sometimes your reason for being in the room isn't your expertise. Sometimes your reason for being in the room is the energy that you're bringing, and your expertise is the vehicle to get you into the room. So when I'm working with lawyers, that's one of the things I talk to them about. And it's true for your clients too, who are experts in their area, or pharmacists or accountants or whatever they do. That expertise may simply be their vehicle to get into the room where they need to impact somebody's life in a powerful way.
I think that is a very profound idea.
Yeah. When you change your view of why you do what you do, and you begin to think about it as a vehicle for your purpose, then those temptations to say, well, oh, corporate America is evil. I don't want to be in corporate America. Why not? Can't you do the most good in a big organization where you can be the person that's bringing the light and bringing the positive energy and bringing that other perspective, right? Like you can have profound impacts on people's lives when you have the expertise or the skill set that gets you in the room where the decisions are made, right? Then you can move the needle instead of standing outside in the hallway saying, oh, well, I don't like what's happening in that room. Get in the room, right? Then you can do some good.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting, because so a lot of my audience are women coaches. They're trying
Mhm.
to grow their business,
Yeah,
and one of the most common thing that I see and hear is like, I had a very successful career, in doing X, Y, and Z,
right.
and now I have to start my own business. I don't even know how to start, where to
Mhm.
begin, and there's that tremendous amount of fear that I cannot do this. but you've been
Mm.
doing it all along in somewhere else in different shape and form and different capacity. So
Yeah.
why can't you do this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Here's the thing that I think people forget when they've had that kind of expertise, which is you're not really starting over, right? You're starting, think of it as a branch and not back to the starting line, right? Um, and everything that we learn along the way gives us something valuable. It's going to be a story to relate to our clients or a life experience to spot an issue in somebody else. So it's all part of the mix. But this idea that you're starting over, I think is kind of a myth that we put on ourselves as a way to almost give our it's a hedge of our bets, right? Like, oh, well, I'm going to tell myself I'm starting over, and then if I don't hit the milestones that I want to hit as quickly as I want to hit them, then I have this built-in story already, right? But what we have to ask ourselves is, are we creating that story from fear, or are we creating that story from purpose and vision? I mean, that's the game changer right there.
Yeah, I think what really, at least for myself, when I caught myself in that story or that narrative
Mm.
of, oh, this is something completely different than pharmacy. How do I even begin? I don't know how to put up contract. I've never done that before.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like, how do
yeah,
I even begin?
yeah.
So let's hear your experience, because this is where legal expertise comes in.
Mhm.
Exactly where do coaches go and to begin?
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I recommend to people is that so certain certification programs will have a form contract that they have out there. Here's the thing about the form contracts. They can give you a good place to start. But when you look at them, what you want to ask yourself is, does this fit my business? And so when you're thinking about a contract, one of the things you want to think about is that what the contract does is it basically says, I promise I'm going to be your coach, and here are the things I'm going to do. And you promise that you're going to pay me, and here's how much you're going to pay me, right? Like it's as simple as that. We can add some extra things on in terms of, an agreement to not sue you for certain reasons, or an agreement that if somebody thinks you didn't do a good job and they want to sue you, that they'll sue you in a certain place, or that they'll agree not to take more than, the amount they paid you in damages, right? So there's some other stuff that goes in there that can be helpful. But at the end of the day, the contract itself isn't really mysterious in the sense of, I promise I'm going to be a coach, and you promise you're going to be a client who pays me, and that's where we're going to start, right? But there's a lot of forms out there that just look scary. Yeah. So one thing I like to
Intimidating.
yeah, yeah. One thing I like to suggest to people, and it's so there's think about it as sort of like three levels of access, right? So level one access would be either I'm not going to have any kind of contract, I'm going to wing it, or I'm going to go to my group that I'm in with other coaches on Facebook, and I'm going to say, hey, does anybody have a contract? Right. So that's kind of, we'll call that level zero, right? Level one would be, I'm going to go to LegalZoom or Rocket Lawyer, and I'm going to pay my $40 a month, and I'm going to fill out the form. And that's going to give me a contract.
Mhm.
That's a pretty good option for a lot of people, right? Um, Level two is going to be, I'm going to go find a course where somebody's going to walk me through how to understand what's in my contract. Because the thing about having a form from a friend or even from a service is that at some point, somebody's going to ask you what something means or how to change it. And it's good to know what's in your own contract. Not just so people might ask you to change things, but also
Mhm.
because you need to know what you're obligating yourself to do. Right.
Mhm. Okay. So
Yeah.
how complicated does it need to be? Like in terms of the wording, let's say I'm like have no clue, just everyday ordinary person, and suddenly
Yeah.
like, how do I put this together? What
Yeah.
verbiage do I use?
There used to be particular magic words that you had to have in a contract, but these days, all you need is, I will do X and you will do Y, right? In legal terms, they call it consideration. Basically, it's the thing that we're exchanging that has some value. So your legal services have value. You promise to trade them to somebody for money, right? So there's an exchange of something that has value.
Mhm.
That's a binding contractual promise. Here's the thing people don't realize. You can make that binding contract promise in a conversation. It can be verbal, right? It can be completely verbal. What's on the paper is the evidence that that conversation happened.
Mhm.
Right. So you may have contract obligations right now where you've had a phone call with a client, you're doing intake, and they say, I want the 3-month package. And you say, great, we're going to do 3 50-minute sessions. And you explain to them how that's going to work. And they give you a credit card and you charge them what you charge them. And you think, I don't have a contract though. Well, actually, you do, because you just traded something that has value, the money, for a
Mhm.
promise to give them services. So you have the contract. What you don't have is a written contract. And so that's the piece where getting some help to get a good form that you understand can come into play. So some people can do this with an email, right? Like if you do a confirmation email to your clients that says something like, it was great to speak to you on the phone.
Mhm.
You've agreed to do the 3 coaching session package for X number of dollars, and here's the link to schedule your package. That's the contract, right?
Mhm.
You've created um, this record. Try not to use lawyerly words. I hope you guys don't hear that in the background. There's some drilling going on over here, of course, right?
It's what's real.
It's real.
What you see is what you get.
What you see is what my dogs aren't barking. That's the great thing today. Um, so you that email
Mhm.
is your contract if there's not another form that you're bringing in on the back end. So if you see
Mhm.
how that works,
Yeah, but can I have one or the other? Let's say I just have a verbal agreement with this
Mhm.
client who jumped on the phone. Would
Yeah,
that have legal binding?
yes, yeah. Now it's legally binding in terms of you make an offer to coach them, they accept the offer, you have a contract. Where people get into uncertainty, and the reason people like to have a document that has everything in it is because how do you prove what was said on the call, right? And personally, I don't like getting into recording calls and doing all of that. I think even if you're in a state where you can consent to recording your own calls, there's some upsides and downsides to doing that. And, you just kind of have to decide your own comfort level with doing that.
Mhm.
But um, having that verbal agreement is a real agreement. It's just harder to prove because you remember it one way, they remember it another way.
Right, right. So just kind of put it onto a written document so that you have something to show and prove that this was the conversation that went on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
A lot of times especially if you find a form on the internet, or even if you go to one of the form services like LegalZoom or Rocket Lawyer or those kinds of things, you'll see these big, impressive looking forms in Times New Roman font, and it says services agreement, and it's got all this lead and language and whatever. Um, Lawyers don't always use those very, very formal agreements. There's a concept of a letter agreement where you send somebody a letter, which could be an email, where you say, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to provide you these services. I'm going to provide you 3 coaching sessions in the next 30 days. If you don't use them in 30 days, then you forfeit them, and I get to keep the fee. And you're going to pay me this much money today and this much money next week. And if you don't pay me, I'm going to stop providing services, right? Like that's pretty
Mhm.
much a coaching relationship. Reply back to this email and confirm that you agree,
Mm. I
right?
think that's where I started.
Yeah.
That's where I started.
Yeah, a lot of people start there. Now, as your business grows, you may want something more formal, right? Um, and as you're looking at things like sometimes when you buy professional liability insurance, if you have that for your coaching business,
Mhm.
they will sometimes ask you, do you use a written agreement? Because it's one of the ways that the insurance company says, have you put a cap on how much somebody can sue you for, right? Those types of things. And so those things are great when you're at that stage in your business where you need them. And I think that's a good practice for people to work up to that point.
Mhm.
I think where people get hesitant is that they think, oh my gosh, if I call a lawyer and I have a lawyer create something from scratch for me, it's going to cost me thousands of dollars. So there's different levels of legal services that you can buy that match where you are in your business.
Mhm. Okay. And so my question, my next question would be, so I know a lot of coaches, including myself, I went and look at the ICF sample contract.
Mhm.
What's your take on that?
I think it's a good place to start.
Okay.
For myself, because 20 something years of being a big old contracts nerd, there were a couple tweaks I made to it for my own business, but it had to do, see, I got to remember now. I think it had to do with um, the state, the state law that applied. I
Mhm.
changed it to where I live and where I'm licensed, and there was something else in there. It's something to do with refunds, I think, or something like that. So, yeah, but
Okay.
just things that matched how I was doing my business at the time.
Mhm. What would be a good resource like to go to if people wanted to learn more about like how to get the written documents so that they have something more formal?
Mhm. Yeah, I think looking at other people's contracts is a great place to start. And here's a sneaky way to do it. Go to your favorite coach's website, and if you guys want to go to angiehooper.com, you're welcome to do this, and look at their terms and conditions page. Because here's the thing, when you work one-on-one with people, you're going to have your coaching services agreement a lot of times.
Mhm.
But also, if you've got a website, your website has its own terms and conditions to cover when people just go to your website and look at things and watch the free training and all of that. So you can get a sense for what people are doing by just going to some coaching websites and looking at the terms and conditions page. And you'll see things and you think, gosh, I never thought about that. Privacy is going to continue to be kind of a big deal.
Mhm.
So, having something in your written agreement that says, I'm going to keep your subject of your coaching sessions confidential unless a court says I have to disclose it. Like if I get
Mhm.
a subpoena, or, if somebody's getting relationship coaching and then there's a divorce case, that kind of stuff. That's a whole other kettle of worms. But you can put that language in that says, I'm going to keep this confidential until somebody makes me tell, right?
Mm, right, right.
But you can find a lot of that stuff just by going to coaching websites. Like, think of a big name that that sells courses online. Go to their terms and conditions page and just peek at it. So if you're kind of a DIY kind of person,
There's a book actually. It's called "Stealing Like an Artist." And
yeah,
if you really think about it, creativity, the word creativity, it's not that you just came out something from scratch. You look at all these different inspiration and you
yeah.
blend it and mix it and you put in your own style and it's yours.
Yeah. Now, the difference between going and looking at people's websites or looking at like when you've bought, most coaches I know
Mhm.
are coaches because they had a great coach along the way. You can go back and look at that coach's agreement and look at what it says versus what your experience was in that program, right? Was it a group program where there was a set time every week for everybody to get together? And if you're offering a program like that, does your contract say that you can change the time? Right? Like, have
Mhm.
you committed in your agreement that coaching calls are going to be at 10 a.m. on Tuesdays, Central Time, you know? And
Yeah.
then maybe your schedule changes and you need to do it at a different time, right? Do you give yourself that flexibility? So you can kind of reverse engineer some of this stuff by looking at other people's agreements. But those online forms builder services can be a really good resource. Finding a form from a coaching program can be a good resource. If you want to, there are coaches out there that offer template packages for
Mhm.
coaches. Those can be really valuable, and I'm actually developing one right now. If folks want to get on the waiting list, they can go to my website and download any of my free stuff, and or just shoot me an email at hello at Angie Hooper, or sorry, Angie at angiehooper.com.
I'll
And
make sure to have the correct
yeah, I
email
got the correct
as
email in
well.
the notes, and we'll put them on the waiting list for that because that's coming up later this year. And what we're going to do is we're gonna give you the templates, but we're going to really teach you how to manage your own contracts, right? Because there's a certain amount of time you have to keep these things if you create them and stuff like that, so that it's not a bunch of mystery mumbo jumbo. we can take you through the process of learning and understanding how this stuff affects your business so that you can be empowered to create it for yourself. And we have a piece in there that is how to hire a lawyer if and when you need one, so that you don't end up overpaying and getting the wrong expert and that kind of stuff. So that was a lot of
What's your email again? Tell us about your email again.
Angie at angiehooper.com. If you want to get on the waiting list for the template course that we're putting together later this year, it will and there are coaches out there who actually have template packages for each state that are lawyers who are licensed to practice law if you want to find one for your state now. But I'd love to help you become a better consumer of legal services and learn how this stuff works. So we're putting that together right now, but it's not quite ready yet, but we're putting it together because we know there's a need. People have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to be scared.
Exactly. And I wouldn't want to get it from someone else, because if you can get it from Angie, like Angie doesn't look scary. Do you? Like, do you think she's scary? No. She's here. She's very, very personable. She's here to help. So
I'm here to help.
Get it from anybody else. Angie at angiehooper.com.
Yep.
Yeah. I know, I kind of wanted to wrap this up a little bit, but I know right now you're not only doing the legal consultant stuff, but you also work with leaders. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. One of my courses, The Leadership Habit, is also a show on the Honest Network, which is a new streaming service that is soft launch was last week. It's getting ready to launch on Roku and Fire TV in the next 30 days or so. We're waiting to hear the final date. So Honest Network, it's the word honest without the H. And the Leadership Habit is really designed to help people who are heart-driven stay in those big organization, corporate America careers, those places where people feel pushed out because they think, what am I doing here? How can I move the needle? How can I have an impact? I want to do something that matters. And instead of running to something else, we want them to have that ability to build their leadership skills from the inside out. And so the habit is heart, alignment to your values, behavior, which is where we do our goal setting, identity, and thoughts. Because what we find is when we set our big goal for ourselves, and this is coaches and everybody, when we set a big goal for ourselves, even when we achieve it, if we haven't upgraded our identity to become the person who has that goal, we will sabotage it and push it away to go back to our old identity. So we want to help people build those leadership skills from the inside out to step into that new identity and then go even further from there.
I love it. I love it because it totally remind me of last year I was on so I did a rebranding, reshift, shifting my direction on coaching, and it was like a big moment, aha moment of truth that I wasn't living who I am, and so you keep holding back on that superpower that you have. You're not sharing. You're not talking about it. And as a leader, I can totally see that, and I see that every single day.
Yeah,
I side hustle.
Yes. Oh, girl. Okay, episode 2 of the Leadership Habit on the Honest Network is called "Don't Call It a Side Hustle." Like I've got yeah. So just in case you needed a.
Yeah, and just to be clear, that is a side hustle. This is why I'm a coach now, because that was the reason why I left. And had I started to work like people like coaches like Angie, I would not have found myself in that place of I need to get out of there. Like that was me wanting to get out of there because nothing was aligned with my value. I didn't know who I was. So yeah. What's your email again?
It's Angie at angiehooper.com. Or if people want to go to angiehooper.com and find some of the resources, we have those there. Leadership Habit. There's a free intro training to the Leadership Habit at angiehooper.com. We'll get the link so people can have that in the show notes as well. And should we talk about the freebies?
Yes, please. Please, I
Oh,
already link all the freebies, right? All
yes.
the freebies.
And
Did I spell
we
your name right? There's
Angie, yeah.
okay.
Angie Hooper. Yeah. So
Yeah,
close.
I linked it everywhere on my social media. I'm like, she got freebies for everybody. She got freebies for
Fantastic.
everybody. You
Yeah,
gotta
yeah,
go
yeah.
check it out.
So on the video that's on the YouTube link, this is a really cool one. So in this video, I show you my desktop and we go to the Secretary of State website for the state of Texas, and I walk people through how they can set up an LLC for themselves without paying somebody to do that form for them. Because a lot of these things they are what we call a statutory form. Like the law that says you can have an LLC says, here's the form you have to fill out. It's the same for everybody. So you can pay somebody to fill out the form for you and send it in, or you just go to the Secretary of State if you're at that place where it's time to create your LLC. So I do a little screen grab video and show people how to do it. There's one for Texas and one for Oklahoma. And if they want to like and subscribe, if I do more for other states, they actually put it, you can put in the comments to those videos what state you want and I'll go do it. And then the other thing is the download is an annual calendar. If you've already created your LLC, here's what people end up doing, right? They create it and then they sort of stick the paper on the shelf and they forget about it. But an LLC is, think of it like a living thing. Like you remember those little Tamagotchi deals, or if you play
The
Animal
little
Crossing.
chicken, the little chicken. You have to. I always make it die.
Yeah, you have to do things to like keep it going, right? You don't have to do a ton of stuff for your LLC, but you do need to do certain things, right? Like once a year you have to fill out the form that says this is still an LLC, right? And usually the Secretary of State will send you a reminder about that. But there's a few things. So I put together a little one sheet planning calendar where you can kind of look at some milestones throughout the year that you may want to look at. If your LLC is where all your business revenue is going and you need to do distributions so you can pay yourself, like
That
that.
would be nice, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I actually get paid to do this.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So there's a few little formality things that are good practices, and so I put a few of those on the calendar planning template for people to download.
Angie, I gotta bring you back to the show because I have so many more questions to ask you.
We should just make it a regular thing. We should just ask
Like,
Angie
forget my
anything.
stuff.
That's
And
but we want to correct the website. ANGIEHOOPER. Make sure we get that right so people know
Angie.
GIE. Yeah.
Oh, my typo.
Yeah. We want to make sure people can find it.
Yep. Yay! I finally got it right.
Nice. I love it. I love it.
All right. Thank you so much. Any last
Thank
words
you,
that
Michelle.
you would like to share with the audience before I put you to the next?
Well, I know you usually ask people their definition of
Oh,
fear.
yes.
Yeah.
What is your definition of bravery?
My definition of bravery. Okay. So I actually have a whole live video about this on my Happy at Life Facebook page, but here it is in a nutshell. It is easier to move towards a dream than away from a nightmare. So when we take the conversation out of fear versus bravery and we put the conversation on what am I moving towards that I want, then we don't have to be brave because we are entirely focused on where we're going and what we want. Fear stops to be part of it, stops being part of it.
I'm having goosebumps. I'm gonna have that like in my episode note, like on a quote card, because that's just beautiful. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you, Michelle.
All right, I'm gonna close up the show, and I'll see you in a bit. All right, everyone, be sure to check out Angie and just follow her on angiehooper.com, and you can grab all her goodies. There's links here right in the comment, in the post, and also I drop it into the chat. So be sure to grab those freebies she had prepared for you. And she's just an amazing person, don't you think? Like, I really truly believe that every lawyer should be like her. I'm sorry. Sorry, sister. My sister would not, she cannot hear this. All right, everyone. Hopefully you all enjoy the show and that you love it. Give it a heart, give it a share. I would love to see you again this time next week at another episode of White Coffee Talk. I'll see you soon. Bye.